2022. This is a meeting of the advisory committee. Just before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody to generally keep yourself on mute unless you're going to be making a presentation. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to use the raise hand function, and I can call on you and you can unmute yourself. Just makes it easier sound wise if people have mute as the default. All right, so first up tonight, we're going to be reviewing the budget for our assessors department. And I know we have our assessors as well as our town assessor, Kelly Garlock. So I don't know who wants to lead off. Would that be Mr. Nichols, or who wants to kind of?
I can take the lead for you.
Okay,
the
great.
question I would have is, depending on how much information the advisory board has about our budget, I can either just answer questions about it if you've seen it, or I can go through it line item by line item, whatever you prefer.
Sure. So what I can do is I can pull up the basic line item budget and share my screen so that everybody can see it at the same time. And if you'd be willing to walk through each item, that would be great.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
If you can do that.
Second. Okay, can you see that?
Oh, yes, that's better than what I have.
Okay. So first thing is just to make sure that the bottom line number looks familiar to you, to make sure that we're working from the same basic document.
We have, this is a fresh edition. The only change was that I asked Kelly to put in her COLA, which she receives every year from the town, into her wages, which she has now done. And that was only accomplished, I think, in the last 24 hours. So I apologize for that, but this is the latest and greatest and most accurate, correct?
Okay, great. So yeah, we can just start from the top and run through.
Okay. The stipend is what Kelly receives every year. It's ingrained into her wages contract. So that line item will be, you'll see that every year. The wages, as I say, are what she accrues from her step that she's in, and that's pro forma. In other words, that's per the step that she gets, and the total of 5,709 is the total of between the wages and the stipend, of course, and that is pretty much governed by the town, by the way. Mm-hmm. Purchases services, which is the first line of what we asked to generate as far as what we go out for bid, is the we have a contract with a company which we've been doing business with, I think, for about 20 years now. They pretty much help us with all the assessments in town. That's the 92,360. We have 3-year contracts with them. The 92,360 is the second year of a 3-year contract. So that's pretty much etched in stone every year.
Is that RRG?
Yes, RRG. Excuse me, I didn't know if you want to know the name of the company, but that is correct.
And that's basically how we get access to David Manzello's services, right?
That's David. That is correct. He's the one that comes in once a week on Tuesdays and does the yeoman's work in the office.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Training is for Kelly. She is obligated by state statute to have so many hours of training every year. COVID put her behind the 8 ball because there wasn't any offered last year. So they are offering courses for her this year. That 860 is for her to take the courses that she's required to take, which the state mandates. Software support is what we do in order to keep. In other words, this is software provided by another company that we take care of all our computers and what we put on our computers. We used to get it from the state, but they no longer wanted it as services. Now we have to go out and purchase that services for our computers. So that's what the 6249 is. I'm going to stop there because I would assume there may be some questions, or hopefully anybody would like to ask anything.
Well, I had a question that may skip ahead a little bit because it covers both software support and the GIS lines, because I noticed that the numbers for those two lines are exactly the same. And I just can't remember whether that's because we have like a multi-year contract where that number is going to be fixed for a few years, or whether you're anticipating like in FY24, the numbers for both software support and GIS might be changing.
Well, they actually are correlated. You're absolutely right. And you're a student observing that what one does, the other does. We have signed well, actually, we haven't signed a contract, but we've been told that is a 3-year program. Again, I don't know why everybody does 3 years. So you can expect to see one more year of flatlining of those two numbers going into next year. I don't know. In other words, they offer us contracts every 3 years. We'll see what the next one comes up with, and hopefully we can live with it. Or sometimes we bargain for it, and sometimes we jostle our what we need and what we don't need. But you'll see, obviously, we have 2 years now at the flatlining, and we'll have one more year of that.
Any other questions from members of advisory before we keep going? I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I think we can proceed.
The registry of deeds, supplies, injury, travel, dues, and everything is pretty much pro forma of what we've been doing over the years. I don't mean to skip. Don't mean to. Go ahead,
Jeffrey. We don't have to pay the registry of deeds anymore, so that's blank.
That's true. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to indicate. I'm just saying that those are pretty much pro forma for what we've been doing for 25, 30 years. That's all.
Right.
Okay. Did anybody else from the Board of Assessors want to make any comments about either the budget or the work of the department?
Then I think it's pretty clear.
Not that, tons of people watch these meetings, but I did just want to give you an opportunity, because I will say sometimes people will approach the advisory committee with a question that's more related to assessors, which is the question that I get most frequently is there a schedule that the assessors follow for how often they update the assessed value of my home? So could you just say a little bit about that?
Jeffrey, do you want me to handle that?
Go ahead, Charlotte. I mean, we can all, that's fairly pro forma. Go ahead, Charlotte.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires every year to be assessed at fair market value. However, because the assessment is as of January 1 of the fiscal year, the values are 18 months in arrears. No, and on purchase of services, just one thing, that is our principal assessor.
Correct.
His company. every 10 years, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and specifically the Department of Revenue requires us to inspect and update information on our field cards. But the values are supposed to be as of January 1 of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Well, just an anecdote, whereas we're required every 10 years, we as assessors in town have been trying to do it every 5-6 years. In other words, we try to keep ahead of the game. So
Right.
in reality, our inspection of whether it be residential or commercial or what have you is shorter and more up to date than required by the state.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so unless there are no questions from anyone else on advisory, I would entertain a motion to approve the total Board of Assessors budget for $157,508.
I move we approve the Board of Assessors budgets for $157,508.
I second.
Okay, I have to do a roll call. Bill,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Ann, you might have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I know I told everyone to mute, I'm sorry. And I'm a yes as well. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time this evening. Good to see you as usual.
Good to see you all, by the way.
All right. So next up, we are going to have a presentation, I believe, from the Superintendent of Minuteman, which is our regional technical vocational program. I think you should have the ability to share your screen, Mr. Bookwood.
I do, Mr. Boyle. And before we get started, I just want to introduce a few folks from my staff who are on this as well.
Absolutely, yep.
Rich Eichenen, the Assistant Superintendent of Facilities and Operations. I see Nikki Andrade is down. I'm looking down. She's our business manager. Oh, and Dave O'Connor, who I hope you all know is our Minuteman representative from Bolton.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy Mardi Gras Day, and today is National Pig Day. I used to teach animal science, so there we go. Can you see that screen okay for the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There we go. So this is an interesting year for Minuteman. As if you've looked at our assessment, you probably agree. Our FY23 budget request is up a little less than 5%. But our assessments to member towns overall is up.
Hold on one second. Can you please mute yourselves? Mr. Nichols, can you mute, please?
Yep.
Thanks. Great. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No worries. So our overall budget, operating and all capital, including the MSBA payments or our bond payments on the MSBA project, we're up a little less than 5%, but our assessments to member towns are up significantly. And I'm going to discuss some of that and the reasons behind it. When you break out our budget request a little bit more in detail, the operating alone is up about 6.5%. What I call our operating capital is up several $100,000. That's money where we pay for our ESCO lease agreement as well as the lighting for the new fields. And you can see, because of the nuances in when we're borrowing and how we're closing out the MSBA project, our project debt is actually down a little bit in FY23. So our overall budget You know, our objectives are to protect the safety and health of folks, as we all have during this pandemic. Promote high quality CVTE, that's career and vocational technical education. Continue to advance our academy model. Looking at ways to increase the capacity of the facility. We are already over the design enrollment of the building, and we will have a waiting list of just member town students in this coming fall. Our campus facilities, including our new athletic fields, will be coming online in April. We want to be able to fully utilize those, including generating some revenue in regards to rentals. And as I mentioned, close out the MSBA budget. Some of the larger drivers in the overall budget is teachers' contract. We're in year 3 of a 3-year contract. Our health insurance, Minuteman is part of a health insurance trust with 4 other regional vocational schools. Although their rates have not been finally set, we're anticipating or budgeting at this moment for a 10% increase. Transportation increase, as you could expect, because of supply chain issues, cost of energy, we're projecting increases in all those. We're starting to get more aggressive in our OPEB, funding our OPEB liability, which I'll talk a little bit more about. We're replacing a couple of worksite buses. Our students travel around the district doing projects throughout the year. We have 2 buses that are over 15 years old. In our capital stabilization fund, we're continuing to fund that. The preliminary assessment for Bolton, if you look at all the components, including the project debt, which is excluded in Bolton, is $893,000, $894,000. So why is that increase in Bolton? Well, if we look at our overall enrollment in the school, it's increasing, and we're projecting over 700, a little over 700 kids next year. And you can see that the red line is our member town enrollment. So the capacity of the school is being filled with towns that are members of the district. For many, many years, the out-of-district student population was significant, between 30 and 50% sometimes. That has changed as the new building went through the process, the design enrollment was selected, and so enrollment has shifted. Almost all of the enrollment over the next few years will be in district. So that means that the out-of-district enrollment is decreasing, and therefore the revenue that's associated with out-of-district students is decreasing as well. And that comes in 2 forms. One is the tuition that is set by the state, and the other is in a capital fee, which is also approved by the state. So the result is that we're having increased assessments to our member towns because the district is being solely supported by its 9 member towns. So this slide, there's a lot going on with it, and I'm glad you all got a copy of the presentation, because this demonstrates the blue line that goes across the top of this chart is the millions of dollars that was available to us every year to offset member town assessments. And you can see down here where it goes from 880 to 12, that's the amount of money that was available from the capital fee. The capital fee didn't start until FY20. And then you can see the green line across the top is the design enrollment of the school. It was 628. And then the change in enrollment, as we see, member town enrollment is decreasing. And I imagine in FY25, there will be little to no out-of-district enrollment. Oops. So just to look at the changes, what I'm trying to do in this slide is show how the changes in enrollment and the changes in assessment have tracked. You may recall that we have a new regional agreement, and in that regional agreement, there were a number of revisions, including using a 4-year rolling average of student enrollment to determine assessments for operating and capital. So that was designed to really level out the spikes. So if you look at this slide, and these are our 9 member towns here, where you can see Bolton had a 60% increase in enrollment year over year. And assessments are going up. Don Lowe told me, don't say only 35%. But district, the assessments are going up in a modified form based upon that 4-year rolling average. You see other towns are tracking pretty closely because their enrollment hasn't changed much year over year. But Bolton's on a percentage basis did. You can see here the trend in applications is continuing. The trend in enrollment is continuing. This year alone, we had 402 applicants for about 175 slots in the freshman class. Of those 402, over 300 applications from 8th graders came in. That's a 105% increase over the last 5 years. And there are out-of-district applicants, but it's doubtful any of them will be enrolled in the fall unless a transfer comes in or there's an exemption under the agricultural exemption rule. So what's happening is what we said was going to happen years ago, that enrollment is increasing and it's increasing beyond the size of the school. And you can see the corresponding out-of-district revenue decline from those tuition line items. The prior year tuition, so that's the tuition we're collecting this year. And then the current year tuition is the tuition we anticipate collecting next year, is down almost $1.4 million. And then you see corresponding with the capital fee reduction as well. So if you look at the comparison of Bolton's assessment year over year, you can see going up from 15 to currently we have 24 students. And I can tell you that as of today, there were 12 Bolton students that were offered admission for next year. And they have another week to say if they're going to be coming or not. And so enrollment is moving in the direction that we thought it would. I don't anticipate this kind of an increase for Bolton in the future, but this is a year of transition for a number of towns.
Can I just interrupt right there to make sure I understand? When you say the 12 that have been offered admission, meaning that if we're looking at the same slide this time next year, then the number under the difference column might be 12?
No, I don't know how many seniors are graduating. It would be the difference between the number of seniors. It probably will be 5 or 6.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yep. So I don't know if there are any questions about that. I'll talk a little bit more about the budget itself. With the increase in enrollment, as well as some of the needs that we see in our student body, we're going to be adding some staffing. The net increase in staffing next year is only 1.5. You'll see that in a moment, but we're adding 2 student support professionals. Those are folks that are either school psychologists, social workers, adjustment counselors, those kind of folks. We're adding a programming and web teacher. That has been our only 1 teacher department. Enrollment is up in there, so we're adding a teacher. We're adding a robotics and automation aide in our engineering program, an HR clerical support specialist, and a half a person in our library reading aide. And then it says reductions, but there was no active layoffs. We simply are not refilling positions that have become vacant based upon retirement, basically retirement or reorganization. So we're not, ISS stands for internal school suspension. We don't have that many kids in there. You may know that the Department of Ed requires, if you have an internal school suspension program, that you need to have a licensed instructor in front of those kids during the day. So there's some educational value to their being isolated from the rest of the staff. But we really don't have that many students, if at all, that misbehave in that way. So we're not going to rehire that position. And we had the HR director position eliminated in a reorganization, and that's not being fulfilled. Some of the things were our animal science, logistics, engineering program are continuing to be developed and funded. There have been increases, as I mentioned before, in materials. I mean, our shops buy all the stuff that regular contractors do and companies do, and everyone's experiencing supply chain and inflation issues. I hope we've planned well enough for that. We're making available workplace clothing, safety gear for all students. And then student credentialing, that's something that all students have to access. We're very proud of the fact that students just don't graduate from Minuteman with a certificate and a high school diploma. They have industry recognized credentials. And in order to take those examinations, it costs money. And it's we had traditionally funded it with grants, and now we're moving those costs into the district budget. And the cost can be anywhere from $10 to $300, depending on the examination that they're taking. So building enrollment beyond the design enrollment of 628, we have 2 projects. We're trying to accommodate 800 students by the fall of 2023. And without doing any additional borrowing. We're doing it all within the budget that we have. So we have a capital stabilization account, which I mentioned before. We're projecting the balance of that account to be about 1.4 million as of July 1st. And the first project that we're doing is we're adding on, well, we're completing a foundation that was done for us in the process of building the whole campus. And that's going to be an expanded metal fabrication area. It's right adjacent to welding and metal fab. And that project is underway. Our students will be doing much of the work after the steel building is erected on the foundation. We will be able to accommodate students in that in the fall of this coming fall. That would increase our capacity by about 32 students over 4 years. The second strategy is we're trying to leverage strategic partnerships with businesses and other organizations that are interested in having a presence on campus and that are aligned with our mission in terms of, high quality career and technical education. So we have a veterinary assisting animal science program, which is in its first year. It's full, and there's a tremendous amount of interest in it. And so we have an East Campus building. It had been built 20 years ago by our students, fairly good size building, about 16,000 square feet. And we're hoping to accommodate a vet clinic that would be open to the public there and some additional academic classroom space. We're sort of in the exploratory design phase of that right now. We have a very strong commitment from one company. I'm also meeting with some folks this week to discuss some more opportunities there. So I'm hopeful I can get that off and running before I'm off and running, as I'm retiring in the end of June. OPEB, let me just mention this briefly. As of June 30th, 2022, our projected estimated liability is about 26 million. We have been contributing a small amount every year to an OPEB trust fund. There's a $500,000 in there now. The school committee had a task force that proposed some more aggressive funding for the liability, and was voted on at the previous school committee meeting. And this is over the next 6 years, the amount that are going to be contributed to the OPEB trust fund. So overall, our budget's up a little under 5%, and that concludes my presentation. So I will keep sharing. If anyone has a question about a slide I can go back to, or I can only see a few of you. So
yeah, actually, well, first of all, thank you very much for a really great presentation. The slides are excellent. And also, before I forget, best of luck with your retirement. That's exciting. I hope you have something fun planned for July 1st.
I'll get there. I'm going out kind of fast, so I mean, pedal to the metal to the end. So I don't know what I'm doing, but
yeah. Could you actually go back the one slide where the recap of the 4.96, I think? Yeah. So in my personal view, I think that your presentation tonight did a good job of explaining why we're seeing these numbers. I think my question would be, if you had a ballpark of what this is going to look like next year, that would be helpful, just because we have to try to model our budget, and this year was a really big increase and somewhat surprising increase, and I just don't want to be taken aback next year.
Yeah, I agree. We were taken aback too by the incredible interest and commitment of the member town in terms of enrolling. I figured it would take 5 to 7 years to transition to a school that was 100% member district communities. That projection has been reduced in half from the time I made it, so the next 3 years. But as you can see, the percent, your member share, I don't see it changing like this again, ever. This incredible increase for Bolton. You have so many slots allocated to you, and those slots are going to be full this coming fall. So unless the school gets bigger and everyone gets equally expanded
Distributed.
slot allocations,
Yeah.
we've hit the maximum of the school. So as the 4-year rolling average begins to level, it'll level that out. You'll see an increase again next year because that 4-year rolling average is catching up with you. But we've done some projections that we can share with you.
And Brian, if you remember correctly, last year and the year prior, I warned of this exact model where we would build the new school and there would be increased interest in Bolton. And we have been pushing and educating our parents within the community that Minuteman is a desired option. And so I'm really, and I know Ed laughs at this, I'm not surprised at the interest. This is something that we have been communicating and I've been sharing on social media with our town, and the interest is extremely high. Within the community at large, within the Commonwealth, quality vocational technical education is now on a resurgence. And so Bolton's a little bit behind. I mean, if you look at the trends on Lancaster and Stowe, they shot up 2 years ago to get into the new building. We waited until the building was built before we saw that. Bolton has traditionally been show me before. So again, to Ed's point, yes, it's an increase, but as I said to Dawn, I wasn't surprised to see the enrollment, and I expect to see word getting out as people see what the facility has to offer. And I see that Robert has his hand raised.
Yeah,
so
I was just
I'll yield to that, Brian, and you'll deal with that.
Sure. And you know what? You can stop sharing your screen, and if people have specific questions, you can reshare. But sure, I'd like to recognize Bob Zakansky.
Thank you. Superintendent Bolton, you indicated Bolton has a certain number of slots available at the school, and that we filled them. In this year, did you have to turn away some Bolton applicants because of the limited number of slots?
This year we did not, no.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, did you have a question? I saw you.
Yeah, I was for a moment. Mr. Bokal, this is about a slide or two ago. You were talking about how to get from 628 to 800, and your slide had about 92 people on it, and that's missing about 70.
Well, it's so in the fall we'll be at 700, And then add another 92, that's 792. So we'll be that'll get us to 800.
How did we get the space for the extra 72 to get up to 700? Was it not built for 628?
Well, the MSBA has a formula, which you'll probably learn about as the SHOBA goes through its building project, that they assume an 85% utilization of every square foot of the building. So if you take 628 and add 15% to that, where you're at 100% utilization, you're up around the 680, 690. Then we also had to temper, COVID kind of, well, just fill in the blank. We also had to convert some spaces that had not been designed for academic classrooms. So let me back, we have enough space for 800 kids on the CTE side of the house. We do not have enough space for 800 kids on the academic side of the house. So getting more academic space is the challenge to getting to 800, plus having an appropriate place for animal science.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions?
No, and I just want to make a comment that over the years that I've been on the committee, Ed has done a great job of being transparent with the school committee and again, the structural challenges of the old building and the functional challenges and operation of the new building. So again, we're always working with administration to come up with creative ways to expand that. And Ed brings in the right resources within the community, and the replacement superintendent, I think, will take that lead. But Ed has been an outstanding superintendent for our district, and I want to commend him for always trying to do the right balance between what's economically feasible and appropriate, and again, satisfying the needs of the community.
Thank you, Dave. It's been an honor.
Yeah, I will say most of what I know about your work is through Dawn Lowe, who raves about you. So I do want to say thanks for everything you've done, and we hope you have a great retirement. Certainly well earned.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Still have him on speed dial.
I'm changing my number, Dave.
So I think if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the Minuteman Bolton assessment for 893,714.
This is Ann. I make the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Bill,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm yes as well. Thanks again to you and your team for coming out this evening. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And good luck.
All right.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Appreciate
have
it.
a good night. Then to wrap things up, we are going to review the dispatch numbers, which I apologize. Nanachka sent me a PDF that I meant to forward to everybody, but it has been a little bit of a wacky day, so I forgot. Hold on one second. I'll share my screen so you can all see it.
Sorry, I was listening to the school committee. What did
Oh
what
no,
did
I
you-
was just saying I'm going to share the document that you sent
For dispatch?
For dispatch, yeah. Bear with me, folks. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this just gives a little bit more information than our assessment number. So you see right there, the $204,606 is the amount that Ninotchka has included in our Excel. But this just gives an overall summary of kind of the high level of the regional dispatch budget elements, in case people were curious. I think what's interesting is that the bulk of actually the entirety of the reason our assessment is going up is because there's a town that's leaving, right, Ninotchka? I mean, that's the reason the math works out this way.
Well, there is a town that's leaving, but if you see State 911, the SI grant, the support and incentive, they're actually making us whole. They're kind of filling in for Townsend.
Okay.
But I feel very good about this budget. The finance committee feels good about it.
So how that whole making this whole thing, what's going to happen next year?
They have said they will continue to do so until we get another town.
They have said that? Do you do you guys have it?
No,
like
I don't
any-
have it in writing.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Ninotchka? No? Okay. Motion to approve Bolton's assessment of $204,606.
I move we approve Bolton's dispatch budget for $204,606.
Okay.
I second.
All right. Roll call. Bill,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, so we're almost done for this evening, but I did just want to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening next week and give folks an opportunity to remind me if I'm forgetting anything. So I'm glad Jenny's back on because she's usually good about reminding me if I've forgotten something. So next week, Dawn Lowe will be coming back in where we can kind of wrap up our discussion of capital. We have a couple other things that we're going to want to just vote or revote. But I don't expect that we're going to have another meeting after next Tuesday.
You might want to, we still have to trim the budget or figure out how to balance it.
Well, part of me was thinking we might be able to do that next Tuesday as well, right? Because after all the elements of the operating budget are voted, we might be able to do that next Tuesday evening. We also do need to run through the warrant next Tuesday evening. Jenny, can you remind me, is there a select board meeting between now and our meeting on Tuesday?
Nope, the select board meet next a week from Thursday, so there is not.
Okay, so would you send out a copy of the warrant before next Tuesday so that we can vote on some of those items?
Yep, I can actually send that right now.
Okay. I'm wondering do you think that next Thursday will be, the select board will finish voting on the warrant?
Well, they usually close it on the week after. So next week, on the 10th, they're going through it with town council and the moderator. And then not the following week, but the following meeting is when they'll close the warrant. So I think it's the 24th.
Oh, you know what? Could you cross post us for next Thursday? Not that everybody has to come, but just I think it'd be helpful for people to be there to listen to the town council.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if we're posted, if we take votes or whatever, we'll be fine. Bob, you had a question or a comment?
Well, as Jenny pointed out, I don't think we'll be voting on the warrant itself until the meeting of the 24th. But if you're intending to make next week your last meeting, you should think about if there are any issues that come up. You may want to designate someone to vote on behalf of the advisory committee or speak on behalf of the advisory committee in case there are some changes at the March 24th meeting.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, there's nothing that would preclude us from meeting again. It's more just that I think that by next Tuesday, we'll have gotten through everything that we need to get through, as opposed to in prior years. I feel like we were kind of like rushed up to the last minute, but yeah, we can
Yep.
certainly call another meeting
Okay.
to vote on stuff if there are changes to the warrant, which there may be. Nanachka, anything else I'm forgetting?
I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe you and I can touch base between now and next Tuesday too, just because.
As long as we get it done before I go on vacation, be good.
Well, don't say when you're going on vacation because this is a public meeting, but okay. All right, well, unless there's anything else, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
A second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
I.
All right, thanks, Bob. Thank you,
All right.
Nanachka.
Thank you.
Jenny.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.